This is called Bald Woman with Skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is an untitled piece, but that's a descriptive title.
Yes.
This was probably painted, in the late 1930s or early 1940s. And it references an image in the Orozco fresco, which is called Gods of the Modern World. It's a little section where you see a skeletal figure giving birth to stillborn knowledge. And these skeletal professors in the background, this is Orozco's criticism of academic education.
Right, which was a little controversial at Dartmouth at the time, I
Well,
believe.
we are an institution of higher
Exactly.
learning, so you can imagine how the professors felt about that. But they were very open-minded, and of course this was part of the learning process,
Yes.
was to open the students' minds. But in any case, Pollock was clearly very impressed with this image, and he's quoting not only the skeletal figure, but also some of the masked figures in the background that come from the Pomona mural that he saw back in 1930. So all of this residue is building up in his work at this time. And you see this curving figure down here, which is a snake,
Which
that
is also
references the Dartmouth mural.
And I read in your catalog someone saying that white part at the bottom actually references the installation of the mural and the architectural situation that mural is in.
Because there is a dado underneath.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you've got an awful lot of Orozco in here, and when I found out that the Hood had acquired this back in 2006, I thought, oh, we've got to show this picture. So I wrote to the then director, Brian Kennedy, and said, you know, we've got one and you've got one. They also have a drawing that represents Pollock, and we have a 1951 poster of a work that also references Orozco. So we thought, let's have a show. And it grew from there. He couldn't have been more enthusiastic. And then when Michael Taylor came in and became director, he carried through with it, and here it is.
And here it is.
And this is the poster, by the way, over here. In 1951, after the period of the very non-objective poured paintings, Pollock began to use referential imagery again. Still very abstract, and they are poured paintings, but he used mainly black on unprimed canvas, and he made these very symbolic pictographic images. And you can see the sacrificial figure here, a splayed out human form with a sentinel figure here that could be performing the ritual sacrifice. Well, here you have the Orozco of a very similar image that was one of the studies for the fresco.
Okay.
So, 20 years later, here's Pollock returning to this same kind of apocalyptic vision of human sacrifice.
It says in the catalog that you wouldn't have the iconic Pollock, the Pollock that everyone thinks of, the drip paintings, without the influence or the impact of Orozco. Can you explain how that may have carried over in some way to the paintings that people are most familiar with of Pollock's?
Well, it isn't so much a question of the imagery. I think it's really more a question of the impulse behind the imagery. That the idea of expressing something that's emotionally charged, that's very visceral, but also rather universal, that these are emotions that everyone experiences across cultures, across time, because Pollock was very interested in the work of Carl Gustav Jung and the collective unconscious.
Yes.
So he was looking for images that spoke to that kind of perception, and he felt that Orozco had achieved that. But, of course, Orozco did it in a figurative context.
Yes.
Pollock, ultimately, his achievement was to do it in an abstract, or even more than abstract, a non-objective context.
Yes.
But still, that emotional content, that apocalyptic vision, I think that animates all of Pollock's work.
And also, of course, the mural size scale is something that he got from the Mexican muralist.
He was impressed with that right from day one.
Yeah.
And he said himself that he wanted to make paintings that functioned between the easel and the mural, so that he would make something that had a grand scale. But even if it was small, the scale would still be there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very true of even his smallest work, is that there's a monumentality about it that it has nothing to do with the size.
And just briefly, this show will be traveling to...
Absolutely. It will be coming to the Pollock-Krasner house in East Hampton,
Yes.
Opening in August, and it will be on view through the end of October.
Okay. Thanks very much, Helen.
You're most welcome.